Hello friends, this is Mark from playABLE Games, doing an accessibility walkthrough and review of LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga by Warner Brothers and Traveler's Tales to determine if it is playable for those with visual, auditory, cognitive, or physical impairment. So we are just on the initial boot right now, going through the different menus to see what it shows you when you start up. So right here, right off the bat, it allows you to choose your language. So right here, initially, it's giving us an accessibility option. So let's look at it. Let's see what it gives us. Okay, so we can see that they, first and foremost, have some auditory helps here. So we can even make the text for the subtitles, turn on the subtitles. I always turn on subtitles, but have those large, small, and even little dialog boxes, so you can change those sides. This is awesome. I like this. So we can choose one of two options. So we can hold the key rather than quick taps. So if you have a sequence where you have to tap X, Y, or if you're on a keyboard, E, and spacebar and different things like that. So you can just have it where you have to hold the button, or the game can auto-complete quick taps. So if you have some sort of physical limitation and have a hard time getting through those, then this can definitely be a help to you. This is another good one. So if you use an adaptive controller, then you can toggle the aim rather than having to hold. So a quick little tap button so that you can use your inputs to be able to just then aim from there. Going through, I always invert the y-axis, so it's great that they're giving us a chance to do that right off the bat. And making all of these things, and you can change the sensitivity, so it can be quick or slower for you. Especially if you have a hard time locking in or aiming accurately. So all of these things go through the aim assist, flight control, all of these things. So you can even have it home on shots, which is really, really awesome. That way you don't have to sit there and try to feel like you're having a hard time because you can't aim at something. Fall recovery. Now this is nice. If you have a really hard time definitely getting from point A to point B, then you can toggle this on, and if you jump to an area that will essentially kill you, it'll automatically just bounce you right back. And navigation assist. These are always great. I'll probably go through and show you guys, but it'll show you the waypoint as you go along, which is really, really good, especially if you have a hard time comprehending things, or where you're supposed to go, or so that'll help. Motion blur. I'm not a big fan of motion blur, and since my monitor runs pretty quick, I'm not a big fan of motion blur. Camera shake you can turn off. And repeating effects. So if strobe lights or different things are not good for you, and you can get epilepsy and seizures, and you can turn those things off. So that's good. This is good. This bodes well. Lots of good physical, mental, visual, and auditory helps and accessibility here. Yes, I do want to keep the changes. Okay, so let's go into the menu. And I imagine most of these things are going to be the same in what we had with the initial setup, which is really, really nice. And as you can see, I have all of the up-down inverted because that's just the way that I play. So visually, we can go through and we can change the resolution all we want to make things a little bit better. For those that are visually impaired, HDR may not be the best because it could provide too high of a contrast or make the darks too dark. But it looks like we can bump up the brightness, so we'll go through and play a game and see if those actually look good for those that are visually impaired. Okay, let's pop into the game and see. Okay, so the video configuration, we're going to go down and we're going to hit up this screen brightness and turn it up. Now I definitely didn't see necessarily an issue with being able to see elements, like it's all too dark and therefore we can't see, and I really saw no big issue with that in this game. I know this area over here is fairly dark, and you definitely, if you have some visual impairments and you can see these elements on your monitor, computer monitor, then you should have no issues there. One of the things I am not seeing within these video options is color blindness settings of any kind. So that is something that could be definitely something that is difficult and make it less playable for some people. Alright friends, so is it playable for the visually impaired? I would give it a score of 7 out of 10, just for the lack of color blindness settings. Otherwise, it's pretty good. So auditory options. So we've already gone through, and we definitely want subtitles, and we wanted to see whether they look good. But as far as distracting audio, I always turn music volume down so I can definitely hear the sound effects a little bit better or the dialogue a little bit better. What this does not allow us to do is to select specific sound effects and either reduce the volume on those or remove those completely. People with auditory processing issues may have a difficult time distinguishing specific sound effects from one another, and it can be distracting or just become a big, giant sound mess. So guys, here is an example of the subtitles. And what you're noticing is they have a nice background behind the words. There's a really good contrast. You're not noticing that the letters are kind of bleeding over past that background. So you really can read those letters, and it really does help. So friends, is it playable for the audio impaired? I give it a score of 8 out of 10. It does lack the ability to have specific effects that you can turn down. It does have great subtitles, but those subtitles do not tell you, or it doesn't indicate which direction the sound or dialogue is coming from. Now, controller configuration. Do we have an ability to remap the controller? Yes, we do. So we can go through and we can sit here and we can change all of these buttons to be something else if we really want to. Yeah. So if you have a controller preference that you have, or an accessibility controller, then you definitely can configure this to the way that you want and the way that is most comfortable for you. I'm going to reset to default for me. Okay. If you like to play with keyboard, you can definitely remap the keyboard controls as well. Okay, so first thing you'll notice, definitely has a great little navigation system that guides you directly from point A to point B, which is really, really awesome. So you can definitely follow around exactly where you need to go. Controls are pretty straightforward. As far as looking around, it's pretty typical. You don't have to. I'm going around running, and it tracks pretty well behind the character. So you don't necessarily have to have that. I bet you with the aiming, yeah, you definitely are going to have a secondary analog stick. So if you use an analog stick with your chin or with something else, or separate analog sticks, you'll definitely need two for this game. And away, and I have hold aiming, but you can definitely turn on the toggle and do it that way. So with that fall recovery, this is what it looks like. It just pops me right back up. No harm, no foul. Typically when you fall off, you lose studs. In this case, we are not. So within the flight controls of this game, it is fairly simple. I think as simple as they probably can possibly make it. The controls are all done with one joystick. That's if you're using a joystick, just one control basically. It doesn't require two analog sticks or anything of that nature. So if you just have a simple joystick, it should work great with these flight controls. You'll notice that in the shooting that it does have some auto-aiming capabilities. It does have a nice guide with the white circle in front of the ship. So just aim at that and you will fire ahead of the ship. And it helps to aim that way. Compared to that open nature of the space flight, in a linear flight it is very similar. There is also a lot of good auto aiming that goes on. You'll notice that my lasers, as I shoot and it's not aimed directly at the ship, kind of just go towards it. So there is a lot of forgiving, especially if you have a difficult time aiming within games. That the game definitely helps with that with its aiming assist. One thing that I would like to point out about the controls of this game is that the menu system is pretty complicated compared to the ease of most of the gameplay of the game, and trying to navigate it can become frustrating when you're trying to select characters or different things like that. So friends, is it playable for those that have a physical or mental impairment? I'm going to give it a solid 8 out of 10 for its ability to remap the controls. Great navigation helps, the ability to skip quick time events, the aim assist. The dual shooting stick does definitely detract from it, as well as the in-game menu can be complicated for some. But overall, it's fairly accessible for those with physical and mental impairments. So in looking at these achievements, I can see that they are fairly accessible. There's no defeat on nightmare difficulty that you'll have to go through in order to get it. There is these collect all mini kit ones, which can be difficult sometimes, where you'll have to replay a level over and over again. So those may be the more difficult ones, but I imagine still pretty accessible. And so I'm going to give the achievements a 9 out of 10. Alright friends, is LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga playable? With an average score of 8 out of 10, I would say that it is. So buy it, play it, enjoy it.